Tom Barton Sports. Online, of course, TomBartonSports.com, TomBartonSports.com. We had John Zeigler on a couple of weeks ago on the early edition of Sports Biz Today. We discovered that John, a filmmaker and talk show host here in Southern California for years, has a differing viewpoint on Penn State. And, of course, John was the guy that put together the documentary on Sarah Palin. And if you've ever heard me, my opinion on Sarah Palin. I became political again after 20-something years when I heard her second speech. But John's on the other side of that. However, I've seen Game Change 33 times. So the first question to John Zeigler as we welcome to the show, John, have you seen Game Change, and what do you think?
Yes, I have seen Game Change, and for those that don't know, my movie that features an interview with Sarah Palin, the only interview she's ever really done about the 2008 election, is called Media Malpractice. And I actually think Game Change tells a certain truth about the 2008 election, and mine does as well. They just have different focuses. And my view of Sarah Palin has changed quite a bit. She and I have had a falling out, I guess you would call it, over the last couple of years, as she has decided to become a political celebrity rather than an actual political entity.
John, again, I come from a very, very politically oriented household. I'm in my 50s, you're younger. My mom and my uncle, not my dad, very much to the left, so I've always been very much to the left. And I got to tell you, but I've been out of politics for years until, I swear to you, 2008, and I heard her first speech at the convention, and I thought it was fine. But the next night, or was it 2 days later, she did another speech, and I swore I went nuts. Everybody I knew, I'm not even into Twitter, I started tweeting. I don't even send emails. I started sending emails. I became more political just because it hit me. This is not a very bright woman. John Zeigler, your thoughts?
Well, you're wrong about that, actually. And I'm someone who does not like Sarah Palin at all. Sarah Palin has done great harm to my life, and I have created an enormous amount of cost to my own career by telling the truth about her. And in her current invention, I would call it Sarah Palin 3.0. But of all the negative things I've ever said about Sarah Palin, after we were actually very close for quite a while and I advised her for quite a while, I have never said that she's dumb, and you are wrong. She is actually very smart, and if you ever met her like I have and spoken to her and dealt with her, you would understand that. I understand as a liberal, you might perceive her as being dumb because her voice is kind of annoying and her syntax is weird and all that. But the reality is she's very smart, and you couldn't be as smart, you couldn't be dumb and end up being as rich and famous as she is for very little accomplishment.
Well, I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to give it to Beth and Howard, but this I have to ask you. If she were so bright, she couldn't mention one newspaper or one magazine with Katie Couric. I don't care which one she names. Just name one.
That's actually not what happened, and my media malpractice proves that. No, I mean, look, if you ask me a question, I'm probably the only person who asked her about this under the proper context. The reality is that answer was completely misunderstood because there was no proper answer. She was not stumped by the question. She had no possible right answer because at that point she was a brand new entity onto the scene, and if it mentioned a liberal outlet like Katie Couric wanted her to, she would have been excoriated by conservatives, and if she had mentioned a conservative outlet, then Katie Couric and the rest of the liberal mainstream media would have said, oh my gosh, she's a right-wing nut job because she reads the Washington Times or whatever it is. There was no good answer to that. It was a gotcha question. If you watch carefully on the video, Katie Couric jumps in immediately instead of letting Sarah Palin answer the question, and you're totally wrong about that.
All right, John Zeigler, radio talk show host, and about to do a documentary on Penn State. Beth, the sports girl in Miami. You're on with John Zeigler.
Hey, John. How are you doing this evening?
Okay, Beth.
I did see your website, and honestly, I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. It made me want to vomit. I mean, let's just remind the listeners that are listening to our show, first of all, what Jerry Sandusky is accused of. 45 counts of sexual abuse. The NCAA president has permission to bypass normal channels of enforcement, to act in this case. And you're telling me that Paterno had no clue what was going on. Honestly, how do you sleep at night? Tell me that.
I have no problem sleeping at night. We've created the website framingpaterno.com where people can get the real truth of what happened there. I know that it seems like your radio show doesn't seem to put much value in this, since I actually did speak to Sarah Palin about these issues. I actually spent 3 hours this afternoon speaking to Sue Paterno and 3 of her sons and daughters in depth about this on the kitchen table. And I've spoken to numerous other people, and I can tell you that your perception of the story is not accurate, and that will eventually come out in the trial of Tim Curley and Gary Schultz. Mike McQueary is going to be revealed as a liar. Mike McQueary is going to have no credibility. The Mike McQueary story that you have hinged this entire case on is going to fall apart, and you are going to apologize to people, me, because we are right and you are wrong. And Joe Paterno has been wrongly vilified, and the truth will reveal that.
Howard
so
Bloom,
you honestly go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Beth. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ask
no, I just want your honest opinion. I mean, do you 100% believe that Paterno had no clue that this was going on at all?
Well, it depends on what your definition is. See, that's an interesting way of putting it. No, 100% no clue. So are you telling me then that any suspicion whatsoever that someone might be a pedophile is enough to then take them to the authorities? Do you want to live in that world? Really? Seriously? Even when the person, really? Okay. So therefore, if someone is even suspected, rumored, third, fourth hand, whatever you want to call it, even when this person has 25 foster children, 6 adopted kids, runs the largest children's charity in the state of Pennsylvania, is a local hero, is known by everybody in the town of State College as a guy who loves kids, has been approved by every government agency that there is, has had 2 psychologists in the 1998 investigation say not only was he not guilty, Darryl Sandusky is not a pedophile. You have no. It's very clear to me that you have no clue of the real facts of this case. You've bought into a media narrative that is false, and has been going a snowball going down the mountain ever since November of 2011, because the media just is incapable of grasping a story of this complexity where the facts actually matter. Joe, and to answer your question, if you'd been with me today at the Paternos and the kitchen table, you would have left with zero doubt that Joe Paterno had no idea that Darryl Sandusky was a pedophile. And the reality is he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He told his superiors about it. He made sure that the head of the campus police knew about the Mike McQueary allegation. And what you're going to find is that the Mike McQueary allegation is not what you thought it was, because the prosecution lied about it and Mike McQueary exaggerated it. And that's the reality.
Talking to filmmaker John Zeigler, radio host John Zeigler also. John, Louis Free to me and to most people, a pretty objective guy, a guy that's been respected in everything he's done. So you're going to have to...
Wait a minute, hold on.
Can I finish? Let me finish my question. Let me finish my question.
You're the first liberal in the history of the world that's ever said that about Louis Free.
Let me finish.
That was a laughable statement. That's an absurd statement to make.
Can I finish?
Go ahead. Continue embarrassing yourself. Go ahead.
Louis Free has had a history of looking into situations like this. Paid by Penn State.
Right. Who was responsible? Have you ever heard of Richard Jewell? Of course
I remember.
You ever heard of Richard Jewell?
At Atlanta. Yeah, I remember.
Do you know who was responsible for Richard Jewell being falsely accused for the Olympic? Do you know who that was?
They took.
Do you know who that was?
Louis Free was part of that.
Do you know who that was?
It wasn't totally Louis Free.
Oh, sterling reputation, huh? And what about Waco? How do you liberals feel about how Louis Free handled Waco? Really? Seriously? I mean, that's hilarious. You just proved how little you know or how little credibility you have, because even as a liberal, up until this case, Louis Freeh's name was mud, which is why he had to do what he did. He did what he did in order to placate the media. He knew what the media wanted here. He knew what the Board of Trustees who paid him $6.5 million wanted here, and he gave it to them. That report is a complete joke.
Listen, John, we want you to stay over another segment, so we want to complete this conversation with you. But the bottom line is, I think obviously the people at Penn State would rather him come out with a totally different look at what actually happened at Penn State than he came out with.
Use actual facts.
They would have been much happier if he'd come out to say,
no, you don't understand. You have no idea the reality. You have no idea what you're talking about. The Board of Trustees wanted.
John, let me finish the statement.
Look, I'm about to leave because I got to go.
I got to go back to something you said a second ago, so you have to understand how ridiculous you
no
are.
How
ridiculous you are. Joe Paterno, you said, hold the people above him. There was nobody above Joe Paterno. That is the truth.
You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Hey, John.
No, we didn't. You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm talking to you from State College. Have you ever been here? Have you ever spoken to any of the people involved? Louis Freeh never spoke to any of the people involved. You bought into a false narrative. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Ran Penn State. So for you to say he told the people above anything is nonsensical.
No.
If we're going to take a break, and John's going to think about what he's saying.
I know. I'm not gonna. I gotta go. Goodbye.
Well, John, leave in this. I wonder why John cancel the truth. John Zeigler. So in L.A., he can hung up on us. John, we don't back on the air. 818-574-TEAM. 818-574-8326. Right here. What a coward. Right here on Sports Biz Today.